Alexy Petrov, codename Sineva, is the newest operator in Delta Force, releasing just a few days ago with Season 2. He's the third operator in the Engineer class, and in today's video I will be going over his unlock criteria, weapon selection, abilities, and playstyle. In order to unlock Sineva, you simply need to reach level 15 in the Battle Pass. Now don't worry, as he is a free unlock, you don't really need to buy the Battle Pass. Sineva, being part of the Engineer class, has access to 8 rifles, 3 shotguns, 3 LMGs, with the new one, the QJB-201, still being currently locked, and a single marksman rifle. As a side note, there is no news on when the new LMG will actually be obtainable. Now let's get into Sineva's abilities. His passive is called Rear Protection. This is a pretty cut and dry ability, as when you don't have his shield equipped, it protects you from getting shot in the back. Now, when you spawn in, specifically on a quad, you need to get off and get back on for the shield to actually appear on Sineva's back. I would have to imagine this is a bug and not actually a feature. Moving on to his active abilities. His throwable is a razor wire grenade. Upon deploying it, barbed wire is released onto the ground. It slows and damages enemies that move through it. When moving through it, they also produce more noise. The barbed wire can be destroyed by mailing it, shooting the device that deploys the barbed wire, or with explosives. Unfortunately, you can't throw the razor wire grenade as far as I would have expected, and it is very easy to destroy. It does do 5 damage to any enemies with the barbed wire when it deploys though, and you can only have a singular barbed wire trap deployed at any given time. It can be very useful to alert you when enemies are running up to you on a certain flank, because they either have to go through the barbed wire, take damage and make noise, or make noise by actually destroying it. What you can do is leave the barbed wire in a flag or area that is often traversed, and when you get a damage notification, you'll know there are enemies in that area. Just make sure you remember where you deployed the barbed wire. His next ability is the Grapple Gun, so that allows Sineva to fire off a grappling hook to pull in enemies, downed teammates, or even gear crates in operations. The grappling range is 25 meters, and if you look at Sineva's reticle, there's actually a small black circle with 4 lines around it. When it turns yellow, it means you are close enough to grapple the enemy. The circle won't change color when you're grappling down teammates, and you can only pull in players that are specifically in your squad, as I would imagine the logic of the grapple gun is the same one as the revives. The rope of the hook can actually be destroyed if it gets shot, and you can only hipfire when you're pulling someone in with it, so be aware of that. It also does 5 damage from what I have seen, so it is possible to get a kill with the grappling hook itself upon impact. There are 2 ways you can fire the hook: instantly, by simply pressing the key, or you can hold it, which will lock onto your target and hook it regardless of whether your reticle is still directly on them. If you are holding down your key for the grapple gun, you can cancel it by swapping to your weapon or a gadget. This ability can definitely be useful to pull a squadmate that is in a bad spot to revive, or obviously pulling enemies in, but usually this can be risky unless you're using the grappling hook in combination with your last ability, which is called the EOD set. When used, Sineva will equip a heavy helmet with a face shield, and his shield will expand and you will have it equipped in your right hand. To use the EOD set, you need to press and hold the key very briefly, which will then trigger a 1.5 second animation to equip the gear and shield. The EOD set reduces all damage taken by Sineva by 35%, but as I was about to release this video, they released an update increasing the damage reduction to 50%. But you can't use any of your weapons, only your grapple gun and shield. The shield covers most of Sineva's body and head, while only leaving his legs exposed. You cannot crouch or go prone when this ability is active, nor can you activate it when in those 2 stances. The viewing window of the blast shield can be destroyed, at which point your head is vulnerable to shots coming from the front. The shield itself is your weapon here. You can shield bash enemies, which knocks them down and does about 1/3 of their health. It actually does 35 damage, but again, I was about to release this video and they increased the damage of the shield bash to 55 damage, so now you're 2-shotting enemies with the shield. Or you can right click, which will perform a sprinting shield bash. Either of these can knock down multiple enemies. If you time a shield attack correctly, you can also reflect throwables headed your way, albeit I haven't been able to do this successfully yet. The EOD set ability ends when you unequip it, die, or enter a vehicle. Not sure if that's actually a feature or a bug, but keep it in mind. One final thing about this ability before I forget, you turn quite a bit slower when EOD set is active, so keep that in mind. The turn speed when the EOD set is equipped is actually 360 degrees per second, but they just upped this to 540 degrees per second in today's update. In order to unequip the set, you simply need to press the ability key and wait the 1.5 seconds required to take the gear off. I find myself wanting to actually take the gear off when my viewing window on my shield is destroyed. Overall, the EOD set is particularly good in choke pointy maps like Shafted and Knife Edge, and you can get some pretty nice plays with the shield by bashing multiple enemies down or having teammates lined up behind you as you advance through those choke points. Even on trench lines, it can be very good in the actual trenches themselves because they're very narrow. The shield can pretty much block most of the trench itself, so people either have to go up behind you on top of the trenches or just face you head on, at which point you can just grapple them and then shield bash them. A lot of fun to do, probably not so much on the receiving end. Finally, Sineva has access to the same gadgets as Shepard and Uluru, the AT-4, Stinger, Javelin, Active Denial System, EMP Launcher, and Anti-Tank Mine. I really thought Sineva was going to be an absolute nightmare to play against, but it turns out he isn't that bad considering the only time his shield is out is when he uses his EOD set ability. Albeit, not many players actually have or are using Sineva yet, so it might turn into a real pain when there are more Sineva players out there. To add to this, the fact that he can't crouch with the shield out and the viewing window being able to break gives players a way to kill him without needing to resort to explosives or flanking behind him. Overall, I found him quite enjoyable to play and he's a lot of fun, but his utility on larger maps with vehicles is debatable. I would still pick Uluru in larger maps, but in close quarter maps, Sineva all the way. Not necessarily because he does things better, but shield bashing people in the face is always fun. One other little tidbit I wanted to share with you guys that I learned while playing Sineva is don't be afraid to unequip your EOD set. You're going to get it back quickly. It's better to be able to run at a decent pace, turn at a decent pace, and being able to use your weapons rather than running around with your shield between objectives with long line of sights and not being able to do anything about enemies shooting you at a distance. Anyways, let me know what you think of Sineva if you've had the chance to play him, and if you have, feel free to leave any tips that you might have picked up while playing him in the comment section down below. But that'll be it for the Sineva Operator guide. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, thank you very much for watching, I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.